Lords is firstly, it's quite high-profile people like Justin Welby speaking out obviously is not a good thing, but also this is something the government are pinning their hopes. They want to get it through Parliament quickly. They know there's an election coming up. They want it to work. They want to show that they're getting things done. They are stopping the boats. That's one of Rishi Sunak's top 5 priorities. And they want to get through all of the parliamentary stages by summer. So the concern is that the Lords could water down this bill, slow down the whole
spectacle, but as I say, there's plenty of ground to cover between now and then.
Ivor, thanks so much. Now, the Metropolitan Police has apologised to the family of a murdered private investigator, Daniel Morgan, after key documents relating to his death were found in an unused, locked cabinet in New Scotland Yard. Mr Morgan was killed with an axe in a car park in 1987, and an independent review into the case found that the force was institutionally corrupt in the way it concealed its failings. Well, our crime correspondent Martin Brunt has more. Martin, his family have fought long and hard for justice and for clarity about what happened to him. Will these documents give them any more answers?
I doubt it. I mean, the Met themselves say that in their own assessment, there's nothing in these documents that go in any way to investigation into Daniel Morgan's murder. I mean, there have been a number of investigations, 4 trials, 2 failed prosecutions that have come to nothing. I spoke in the last few minutes to Alistair Morgan, Daniel's brother, and he has said that he's not surprised at what's been announced by the Metropolitan Police. He thinks that the force has only told the family and released this information today because the Sun newspaper was on to the story about the discovery of these documents that were found in January. Apparently cupboard at Scotland Yard, a cabinet that hadn't been unlocked for many years. This is, of course, another bad day for the Metropolitan Police, but another episode in a long-running saga that's dogged the force for the best part of, well, nearly 40 years. The Metropolitan Police say, although there's nothing here that has an impact on those failed investigations, it does say that some of the documents, and there are a total of 166 pages, some of those pages should have been revealed to the independent panel that spent 8 years looking at the failings of the Metropolitan Police various investigations. Now, that panel found evidence of institutional corruption. This was 2 years ago. Denial of failings by the Metropolitan Police. And most famously of all, of course, it accused Dame Cressida Dick, who 2 years ago was the commissioner, but at the time was an assistant commissioner. It accused her of initially, at least, blocking information to that panel. The report today, the Metropolitan Police also admits that others amongst these documents should have been revealed to the Inspector of Constabulary, because it too looked at the Met's handling of the Daniel Morgan investigation over all those years. And it too, last year, found that the Met's approach to tackling corruption was not fit for purpose. So what impact these new documents might have on those 2 inquiries, we don't yet know. Both those bodies will look at what the Met is now going to send them. So too will the Independent Office for Police Complaints, because it will be concerned that somewhere in these documents might be evidence cases against certain officers.
As the Prime Minister and Labour leader went head-to-head in the Commons for the first time since those local election results last week. And following on from our political editor Beth Rigby's interview with Sir Keir Starmer yesterday, which saw him refuse to rule out a deal with the Liberal Democrats after the next election, Rishi Sunak accused the Labour leader of being too busy plotting coalitions.
It's the same old guff from him every week, Mr. Speaker. All politics and no action. We're getting on with halving people's energy bills, freezing fuel duty, cutting the costs of childcare and boosting pay. While he's busy plotting coalitions, we're getting on and delivering for the British people.
Well, our political editor Beth Rigby is here with me now. And Beth, the Labour Party would like us to focus on the fact that they could get the numbers, but others would say, if they need a coalition, we should be asking the questions as to who they would be with.
Yeah, I mean, look, this whole discussion about coalitions, and we should remember that we had a coalition government in 2010 with Labour, with the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives, and then in 2017, you remember Theresa May wasn't quite over the line and she had a confidence and supply deal with the DUP, the Democratic Unionist Party. So we've already had 2 of these versions of government in the past 13, 14 years. And the question really is, if the local elections project that there won't be an outright majority for the Labour Party, the next question, obviously, is will Keir Starmer have to do a deal with someone in order to get over the line and get into number 10? What was interesting in the interview yesterday was having emphatically ruled out any deal of any sort, formal or informal, with both the SNP and the Liberal Democrats last year after the local elections. Keir Starmer did not do that this week. He's ruled out the SNP with a tilt to wanting to be the Unionist Party taking on the SNP in Scotland in what we expect to be next year's general election. They could run it as late as January 2025. We think it'll be next year. But he would not rule out some sort of deal with the Liberal Democrats. So he shifted position from last year. Interestingly, though, Jane, and this is breaking news, that the Prime Minister's press secretary, Rishi Sunak's press secretary, has just repeatedly refused to rule out any post-election deal with another party if the Tories fall short of a majority. So Rishi Sunak, having taken a pot shot at Keir Starmer over this question in the Commons, his spokesperson now refusing to rule out a deal for them. And I think they were asked about the DUP, the new Reclaim Party, new right-wing party, and the Reform Party, which has grown out of the old UKIP run by Richard Tice, who was very involved with UKIP with Nigel Farage. So interestingly, Rishi Sunak is also refusing to rule out deals. And I think this speaks to the fact that after those local election results, there's 3 or 4 parties really in play here. The Liberal Democrats picking up over 400 seats. If you extrapolate out the vote share and imagine that all of the country voted in local elections, they're on 19-20% of the vote. That puts them into, I think it was sort of 30 plus seats at a general election. You've got the SNP in Scotland, Labour and the Conservatives battling it out. And I think these questions about deals will become even more relevant as we go into a general election, because at the moment it's really hard to see how Keir Starmer can get an outright majority. And after last week's local election results, Rishi Sunak will be wondering if he's even got a chance of closing the gap. And then you end up with Labour as the largest party. Can they do a deal? And if it comes to the Liberal Democrats, they are not going to do a deal with the Conservatives, having been nearly wiped out after that formal coalition in the 2015 general election. And for the SNP, they have also completely ruled that out. So there's not that many players for the Conservatives to play with.
OK, Beth. Now, a disgrace and a scam. The words of Donald Trump as he promised to appeal after a jury found that he sexually abused a woman in the 1990s. In a civil case, a court in New York awarded $5 million damages to E. Jean Carroll, who accuses the former US president of assaulting her in a department store. Now attention is turning to what the case means for his campaign and return to the White House. We'll have more on that later in the programme, but first our US correspondent James Matthews reports.
She's the woman who claimed that Donald Trump raped her. A New York jury wasn't with E. Jean Carroll on that, her central claim, but it did find that he had sexually abused her.
We're very happy.
We're very happy, said her lawyer. The client, $5 million richer.
We have so much respect for you.
Donald Trump gave his reaction on his social media platform.
We'll be appealing this decision. It's a disgrace. I don't even know who this woman is. I have no idea who she is, where she came from. This is another scam. It's a political witch hunt.
E. Jean Carroll is a former magazine advice columnist. She told this court she was attacked by Donald Trump in the mid-1990s following a chance encounter outside this Manhattan department store. E. Jean Carroll said she bumped into Donald Trump as she was leaving the store. He recognized her as an advice columnist. He said he was buying a gift for a female friend. Could she advise him? The two ended up in the lingerie section of the department store. E. Jean Carroll said he led her to a dressing room, pinned her against the wall and sexually assaulted her. E. Jean Carroll hugged her legal team in court as the jury verdicts were read out. She said in a statement, "I filed this lawsuit against Donald Trump to clear my name and to get my life back. Today the world finally knows the truth. This victory is not just for me, but for every woman who suffered because she was not believed." This isn't a criminal case, unlike the charges laid against Donald Trump earlier this year over hush money paid to a porn star. This civil case won't result in any prison sentence, but he is liable for financial loss. And then there is the price he will pay politically ahead of a presidential campaign. What price? The reputation as a sex offender. James Matthews, Sky News, in New York.
Let's get a look at the weather now.
Warm memories wherever you go. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
There'll be widespread showers through tomorrow, but it'll turn mainly dry to end the week. Temperatures mostly near or a little above average today, but misty low cloud will keep it rather chilly near some northeastern coasts. A stiff wind in the south and west will make it feel colder there. Most parts will have sunny spells and a scattering of showers this afternoon, some heavy with hail and thunder. There'll be a risk of localised flooding in some places, and the showers look like becoming more isolated in the west later. Evening showers will mostly fade overnight, but some will linger in the southeast, while more will return to the west later.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
You're watching Sky News. Coming up, more on Donald Trump calling it a disgrace after a jury found him liable for sexually abusing a writer in the 1990s. Well, let's get more now on the future for Donald Trump, who says he'll appeal after a jury found that he sexually abused a woman in the 1990s. Now, as we've been reporting, a court in New York awarded $5 million damages to E. Jean Carroll, who accused the former US president of assaulting her in a department store. Well, joining me now is Frank Bowman, Professor of Law at the University of Missouri, here in the studio with us. Thanks so much for joining us. And Frank, we were just chatting ahead of the interview, and you were pointing out that he was acquitted of rape, but what he was found guilty of, without going into very graphic details, is actually a really serious sexual assault, and it's not something, you know, this isn't sort of an unwanted kiss. It goes a lot further down the line than that, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, and I think that's significant. I mean, the world has known for years and years and years, knew before Trump